Well, it was 2014, and normally I do very poppy, kind of futuristic, very optimistic kind of work, and then I frankly just with the news and I just wasn't feeling it, and at that time, and it started to come out instead as very dark pieces. I started to experiment with things that I don't normally do, and it felt like a release to do them. So and that's what started. I started out with this piece of Teeth, and bam, I suddenly felt like I found a release, an artistic release, and I just jumped on it, and I did this whole series, because of that. I do a lot of these, I do kind of an idealized kind of doll-like perfection, this kind of beauty, and like I say, the events around the world, it just didn't feel right. So with Teeth, I got a copy of one of these faces that I usually make, and I just started digging it out, and the further I dug it out, the more real it felt, and I think it was just an attempt to try and to almost deconstruct what I'd already created. And I just wanted to kind of strip it all away and get to what was underneath. That's what I felt. I felt like the whole world seemed like a sham. It was, the golden pop stars and and Kim Kardashian on the news and everything. And I'm like, it's got Ebola and plane crashes and and ISIS and all this stuff, and everything seemed an absolute conflict with my own work and with what I was seeing, and the more I tore away at this work, the more real it felt. So once I'd finished with Teeth and I looked at it, it felt there was a sense of relief, and then I just couldn't wait to get onto the next piece and just like tear away. It was very much a visceral kind of thing, I'd never really experienced anything like that as an artist before. I knew it was real and honest, so that was great, and just proceeded from there. And I'd get clay, and just instead of spending hours to smooth it out, instead it would be I'd rake it over and then tear it with my hands, and I just tried to produce a result unlike anything else I'd ever done. But for that time, it felt the right thing to do.
The Teeth. This is the first piece I made. This was I made this one really quickly, and it was this was a direct response to some bad news I'd heard, and I took one of my usual faces and I just took it away and with all kinds of tools, and it just the more I took away, the happier I felt, and the more relief I felt, and I made, normally the eyes are very clean and pure, and I wanted it to be distressed, but I still wanted like a glitter in there, so that somehow the blindness would still seem somewhat attractive, and that there was effort in there to try and make herself still seem beautiful despite all of this. So this one's really pretty raw. Even looking at it now, I remember when I made it, I was in a pretty bad place when I made this one. So this one's, it's still kind of, it's very raw for me. Okay, this piece is Grin. This really was about trying to, this was purely like a feel of uncomfortable. I love the contrast of the smiling face and the thing going on with the mouth. This was the second piece I made in the Trypophobia series, so in some ways it's one of the most raw and genuine pieces in the whole thing. This was really when I was really in that place. So again, it's got the teeth coming out, a little bit of blood on the teeth. I find that this piece really upsets a lot of people. I think it's, the idea of STDs and stuff like that comes to mind. It just makes people feel very uncomfortable, even though, despite the fact she's got a really nice smile. So that was, it's weird. It's the weirdest thing because, yes,
the idea isn't that they look disgusting. That's not really the idea. You know, on first glance, that can be, it can certainly be viewed at that. But there's also a sense of melancholy and a sense of loss. And a lot of my previous work is very high sheen, has beautiful lines, very automotive, very positive, optimistic. And I couldn't help still inserting some of those elements into something, you know, that for me was also profoundly sad and had a sense of loss. It was I found myself still trying to throw in some of those elements that I found, you know, were still at the core of myself. I felt that they still needed that. It wasn't absolute despair or anything like that. So it was important that, you know, like in the eye, it had a little tiny fleck of glitter. You don't notice it. Whereas, I mean, I suppose really the shininess represents some level of hope to some degree, you know, like, and it looks back to some of the other work and you know, but it's covered up by a lot of stuff. You have to look hard for the hope, and I suppose that's really what it represents to me, those elements. It's called Alive. This one, this is so strange. I've been watching some videos on botfly removal, and there was there's something called jiggers in Africa which they suffer from, and some of the videos were really very, very disturbing. And the idea of taking, you know, a really lovely face and then just eating away at it, and the very heavily open pores. Again, it was really a visceral kind of thing, and I wanted to suggest holes within holes within holes. So yeah, but I was very happy with the skin texture on this one. I started out making it look very nice, and then I piece by piece I started to destroy it. So it actually painted very beautifully, and then I deconstructed it and drilled into it and pulled it until it had an opposite effect. This one is Lobe, and this one it's really about it's kind of, you know, this one's very much a physical kind of thing, the idea of something in your hair. And I like the idea that the ear canal was blocked, and you were unresponsive, and you were concerned with other things. So this one actually really makes me kind of feel kind of weird, you know, which is good. And it's also got detail around the back of it. So this one has kind of a really deep idea. I found that people really want to pick at it, and this one. So I'm happy with this one. This piece is called Parasitic, and for me, I suppose in some ways this is kind of the saddest, the most melancholic piece in the show. The skin detailing, the mottling, it suggests perhaps a dead figure. Because I love a woman's back, and so this really is literally tearing up what I really love, the area along the spine, and again, this is really deconstructing what I find beautiful, and just trying to find like a layer underneath. That's what this one is. And again, the teeth, I want to try and suggest that perhaps the spine was growing, but the name also suggests the idea of a possible parasitic twin. So that was also, and I know some of those have like teeth and hair in it, so I want to try and suggest that as well. I found myself like when I'd made the first piece teeth, I found myself somewhat repulsed, and then I researched it, and I found, you know, the images of like a lotus seed pods and stuff like that. I found a revulsion and a compulsion within myself. So all I did was I basically tried to freak myself out and try and find the places where, you know, where it was horrible for me. So that's, you know, so I'd say I'm mild in trypophobic. So and I embrace that and try to. That's what you see in all of the show. I try to push myself, so it's that point where it's beautiful and at the same time it pushes you away. I wanted a very visceral response. That was really what I wanted to try and do.
This one's called Inside. This is another one of the more melancholic pieces. This is, it was very, very raw, and I made the piece very quickly, and I wanted to just try and get an idea across, really. I'd had this idea of the neck and how beautiful that is, and then just the idea that it's a hole within a hole within a hole inside her neck, and that would take away from the beauty of the face. It was just something. I keep saying the word raw, but that's what it felt like. Literally digging away at what I found beautiful, and that seemed to give some sense of relief. So, yeah. And she still has the makeup, and in an effort to maybe try and make things okay, but it's a fail. So, yeah, it's very sad, I think.
This series in particular, this obviously goes to the darker side of things, which is always present in everyone, and I just chose to expose it, like I haven't done before. But it's really about communication and trying to get ideas across to other people, and it's reaching out. It's really reaching out and hoping that somebody pulls back, kind of a message in a bottle kind of thing. I'm just throwing it out and just hoping that somebody, identifies with it and feels the same way I do. It's communication. That's really what it's all about. And and I could never stop doing it. It's absolutely, it's my soul. I couldn't ever stop.
Why did you choose to put teeth on the sculptures?
That's direct because of my dreams. Dreams were, I dream about teeth and teeth falling out. I think a lot of people do. I've read up on it. It's supposed to be signs of sickness, or it's obviously a distressing, deeply personal thing. That's what I dreamt about since I was a child. So that's why that's in the sculpture. That's extremely personal. Obviously, it resonates with other people too, but that's very much a personal thing. It could have been pretty much anything, but that's very personal to the teeth.
This piece is called Trypophobia. This was the last major piece I did in the series. I wanted to kind of culminate with a summation of the whole show. This is one of my normally very, very beautiful faces that then I resculpted, and I took away a lot. And it was a real intense, raw process to deconstruct what I'd already made. And the array of teeth and holes and everything. And I also wanted the eye to look very distressing. So I put it off at one angle. So this was really a summation of the whole show, I would say.
That's a great piece.
Thanks. And I understand those gut feelings. It's so strange. You don't want to look away. You're compelled to look away, but you can't look away, and you want to yank the teeth out and put something else there, fill up the holes. It's such a strange, visceral, physical response to art, and I don't fully understand it myself. All I know is that I get it because I feel the same way. I want to do the same thing. So when I see them, it makes me feel uncomfortable, and the more uncomfortable I felt, the more I knew the work was right.